Welcome back, brave souls, to my disturbing world of darkness, a realm where reality blends with the supernatural. Take a moment to pause, to invite the emptiness that surrounds you, and prepare yourself for an unsettling journey that will truly test your courage. But remember, even in the darkest of nights, there is always a glimmer of light that will guide you through the darkness. And tonight, I will be your guide. Story number 1. The Hotel of Horrors. I had stayed in countless hotels over the years, but there was one particular hotel that would forever stain my memories, an eerie place that tested the boundaries of what I believed to be real. This is the spine-chilling account of my horrifying and disturbing hotel experience. It was a stormy winter evening when I arrived at the hotel, seeking shelter from the biting cold. The old building loomed ominously, its faded facade hinting at a bygone era. But ignoring my initial feeling of unease, I checked in and made my way to my room. As I entered the room, a chill washed over me, one that had nothing to do with the freezing cold weather outside. The air felt heavy, laden with an unexplainable sense of dread. I shook it off, attributing it to the hotel's antiquated charm. But as night descended, darkness wrapped around the hotel like a sinister cloak. Strange noises echoed through the hallways, whispers that slithered through the cracks in the walls. I told myself it was just the wind playing tricks on my mind, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. As I laid in bed, trying to find solace in my sleep, the room seemed to come alive. Shadows danced along the walls, morphing into strange shapes that sent shivers down my spine. I pulled the covers tight around me, hoping to shield myself from the growing unease. Suddenly, a tapping sound echoed from the window. I mustered the courage to investigate, but what I saw froze the blood in my veins. There was a figure stood outside, their face hidden in the darkness. They tapped their long, bony fingers against the glass, a haunting rhythm that pierced through the silence of the night. With my heart pounding, I retreated from the window, but the figure persisted, its presence growing more intense. The tapping soon turned into scratching, as if the figure sought to break through the barrier that separated us. Panic took hold of me as I realized there was no escape from this menacing presence. In a desperate attempt to find answers, I ventured into the hotel's dimly lit corridors, each step echoing through the deserted hallways. The atmosphere grew suffocating, and the air turned stale, carrying with it a stench of decay that turned my stomach. As I reached the lower levels, the hotel's haunting history unravelled before my eyes. Portraits of past guests lined the walls, their eyes following my every move. I could almost hear their agonized whispers, trapped souls forever bound to this cursed place. In a moment of terror, I found myself face to face with the hotel's proprietor. His hollow eyes held a haunted wisdom, his voice laced with a chilling familiarity. He revealed the hotel's dark secret, a past marred with tragedy, with restless spirits trapped within its walls, yearning for release. Frantically, I raced back to my room, pursued by a force that defied all logic. The figure from the window grew closer, its presence suffocating, as if it sought to claim my very soul. I locked the door, but it seemed futile against the malevolence that seeped through the cracks. As the night wore on, the walls pulsated with an otherworldly energy. The figure was now inside my room and loomed over me, its features twisted and contorted. I could feel its icy breath on my neck, a chilling reminder of my impending doom. Summoning every ounce of strength, I screamed for help, my pleas reverberating through the corridors, and in a moment of divine intervention, the door burst open, revealing a group of hotel staff and concerned guests. The figure vanished, dissipating into thin air, leaving behind a lingering sense of relief and disbelief. The hotel staff assured me that I was not alone in my experience, recounting their own encounters with the supernatural occurrences that plagued this hotel. Together we decided to investigate the hotel's dark history and search for a way to release the tormented spirits trapped within its walls. And through extensive research and consultations with paranormal experts, we uncovered a forgotten tragedy that had befallen the hotel many years ago. An unspeakable act of violence that had left a lingering imprint on the building. Well, with the guidance of spiritual mediums and the utmost caution, we performed a cleansing ritual, offering prayers and seeking forgiveness for the restless souls. Gradually, the hotel's atmosphere transformed, as if a weight had been lifted, and the malevolent presence disappeared. In the end, the hotel became a place of healing and closure, a testament to the power of confronting the supernatural. Though the scars of that night will always remain, I emerged with a newfound appreciation for the thin veil that separates our world from the realm of the unknown. So, if you ever find yourself in an old and mysterious hotel, be wary of the secrets it holds, for within those walls, unseen forces may lurk, eager to test the limits of your courage and belief. Story number 2. The Unsettling Babysitter. When I was a 12-year-old girl, I had my fair share of babysitters, who came and went without leaving much of an impression. But I will always remember, there was one babysitter who entered my life, leaving a haunting memory that would forever remain inside my mind. This is the bone-chilling story of my encounter with a truly terrifying babysitter. It was a dark and stormy night when my parents informed me that they had hired a new babysitter to watch over me while they attended a late-night event. As the rain poured relentlessly outside, a sense of unease settled within me. Little did I know, this would be the night my childhood innocence would be truly shattered. The babysitter arrived promptly at 7 p.m., her face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, and her eyes obscured by dark sunglasses. Her name was Mrs. Grayson, and her presence alone terrified me to my core. I tried to brush off the feeling, reminding myself that she was just another stranger in a long line of babysitters. But as the evening progressed, Mrs. Grayson's behaviour became increasingly odd. She spoke in a hushed tone, her words laced with an unsettling intensity. She insisted on keeping all of the curtains closed, plunging the house into a suffocating darkness. The only source of light came from a flickering candle, casting eerie shadows on the walls. I attempted to engage Mrs. Grayson in conversation, hoping to distract myself from the growing sense of fear. But her responses were cryptic and filled with a chilling sense of foreboding. It was as if she knew something that I didn't. Something sinister lurking just beyond the veil of normalcy. The night wore on, and the storm outside intensified. Thunder crashed and lightning illuminated the room, revealing Mrs. Grayson's face in a brief, horrifying glimpse. Her eyes gleamed with a twisted hunger, and her lips curled into a malicious grin that truly rocked me. As bedtime approached, Mrs. Grayson insisted on tucking me in herself. The moment her cold, bony fingers touched my skin, I recoiled in terror. Her touch felt icy, but I feigned sleep, hoping to escape her presence. But I couldn't escape the sound of her slow, deliberate footsteps echoing throughout the house. Hours passed, and the storm raged on. I laid in bed, paralyzed with fear, as I listened to strange noises that seemed to emanate from every corner of the house. Whispers, faint and chilling, filled the air. They sounded like voices of tormented souls, pleading for release from an unseen tormentor. Well, summoning all of my courage, I cautiously crept out of bed, intent on finding a phone to call for help. As I descended the creaking staircase, my heart pounded in my chest, the sound drowning out all rational thought. But the whispers grew louder, converging into a chorus of malevolent voices that echoed through the darkened house. And just as I reached the bottom of the stairs, I froze. Mrs. Grayson stood before me, her eyes now devoid of any human semblance. She extended a gnarled hand towards me, her voice a hissing whisper that sent shivers down my spine. In that moment, I knew I was in the presence of pure evil. Terrified, I turned and fled, running blindly into the storm outside. Rain soaked me to the bone as I raced through the streets, seeking refuge from the nightmare that had unfolded within the walls of my own home. Eventually, I found safety at a neighbour's house, where the police were called. But once the authorities arrived, they searched my home and found no sign of Mrs. Grayson. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Story number 3. The Camping Creature. I had always been an adventurous spirit, eager to explore the great outdoors. But one camping trip would forever haunt my dreams. turning my love for nature into a nightmare. This is the tale of my horrifying camping experience. It was a warm summer weekend when my family and I set off on our annual camping trip. Excitement filled the air as we arrived at the remote campsite nestled deep within a dense forest. The tall trees loomed over us, casting eerie shadows that danced in the fading sunlight. As night fell, we gathered around the crackling campfire, roasting marshmallows and sharing ghost stories. The darkness beyond the ring of light seemed impenetrable, and a chill ran down my spine as the stories unfolded. But little did I know, the real terror was yet to come. As we settled into our tents for the night, I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. Every rustle of leaves, every hoot of an owl, sent my heart racing. But I managed to convince myself it was just my imagination running wild in the unfamiliar surroundings. As the night wore on, a hushed silence enveloped the campground. I laid there in my sleeping bag, listening intently to the distant sounds of the forest, when suddenly a low, guttural growl shattered the stillness, followed by a cacophony of snarls and howls. Fear gripped me as I realized the sounds were coming closer. Peering out from my tent, I saw pairs of glowing eyes in the darkness, like malevolent stars scattered through the trees. The air was thick with an awful smell, as if something sinister had permeated the atmosphere. I clutched my sleeping bag, my small hands trembling as I prayed for safety. The creature's presence grew more palpable, and I could hear its heavy footsteps crunching the underbrush. Panic consumed me as it circled our campsite, the sound of its growls growing louder and more menacing. This was no ordinary animal. It was something unearthly, something born of nightmares. My family huddled together, sharing whispered prayers and desperate glances as we awaited our fate in the face of the unknown. But just as the creature drew closer, its eyes glinting with a predatory hunger, a sudden flash of lightning tore through the sky, illuminating the night with a blinding light. In that moment, I caught a glimpse of the creature, its twisted and contorted form, truly terrifying me. My father grabbed a flashlight and aimed it towards the beast. The beam revealed a creature with elongated limbs and gnarled features, defying the laws of nature. Its eyes burned with an unholy fire, reflecting a darkness that words cannot capture. With a blood-curdling screech, the creature vanished into the depths of the forest, leaving behind an oppressive silence. The ordeal may have been over, but the terror lingered, etched into our memories forever. As the first light of dawn painted the horizon, we packed our belongings hastily, eager to escape the clutches of that cursed forest. The camping trip that was supposed to be an adventure turned into a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks just beyond our perception. Story number 4. The Creepy College. So I was just a regular 20-year-old girl, trying to survive college and all the crazy stuff that comes with it, when one spooky October night, I found myself studying in the library, buried in books and drowning in assignments. The library was kind of old and had this creepy vibe, but I shrugged it off, thinking it was just my mind playing tricks on me. When the clock struck midnight, I finally decided to call it a day and head back to my dorm. The campus was deserted, with only a few dim lights flickering here and there. I walked fast, feeling this weird sense of fear, like someone was there, but I didn't know it. You know that feeling when the hair on the back of your neck stands up? And then, out of nowhere, this thick fog started rolling in. I'm talking horror movie level fog. It swallowed up everything, making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. And suddenly, I realized I had lost my way. Panic set in as I stumbled down paths that seemed to twist and turn, leading me deeper into the maze-like campus. As I was frantically searching for any signs of civilization, I stumbled upon this super old run-down building I'd never seen before. It gave me major goosebumps, looking all creepy and falling apart. But curiosity got the better of me, and I pushed open the creaky door to take a peek inside, to see if there may be some way out. Now let me tell you, stepping into that building was like stepping into a time warp. Dusty furniture was scattered everywhere, and cobwebs were hanging from the ceiling, like they were auditioning for a Halloween decoration contest. The air was musty, and I swear I could smell something rotten. And then it happened. I started hearing the whispers, soft at first, but they continued to get louder. It was like voices coming from all directions, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. But trust me, I was not sticking around to find out. I bolted for the door, only to realize it wouldn't budge. But just when I thought it was game over for me, this guy, another student I think, came rushing in from out of nowhere. He looked just as terrified as I felt, and without saying a word, he grabbed my arm and pulled me out of that nightmare building. We ran like hell through the foggy paths until we reached the college campus security office, where we spilled our guts about the whole horrifying ordeal. So, that's the story of my creepy college experience. I don't know what was going on in that building, or who those voices belonged to. But one thing's for sure, I'm never going near that place again. Story number 5. The Wedding Mansion. I never expected my cousin's wedding to become a nightmare etched into my memory. And yet, that is exactly what happened during my horrifying and unnerving wedding experience. The grand venue was an old mansion shrouded in mystery that stood as the backdrop for this supposed joyous occasion. The hallways were adorned with elegant tapestries and antique portraits that seemed to follow me with their eyes. Yet beneath the surface of celebration, there lingered an ominous energy, a presence that sent shivers throughout my body. As the evening progressed, the merriment seemed forced, as if a hidden darkness permeated the air. The guests wore strained smiles, their eyes filled with the same unease I was feeling. The atmosphere grew heavy, like a gathering storm, waiting to unleash its fury. During the reception, I found myself drawn to a forbidden wing of the mansion. It was said to be haunted, but of course, my curiosity got the better of me. The dimly lit corridor led to a room veiled in shadows, its door ajar. A cold breeze whispered through the cracks, carrying with it the whispers of forgotten souls. With all of my courage, I ventured inside, only to be greeted by a sight that froze me in my tracks. The room was covered with faded wedding portraits, their faces distorted, and the air grew frigid, as if the souls trapped within those frames sought to draw me into their torment. As I turned to leave, a figure suddenly materialized before me, dressed in a tattered wedding gown. Her eyes held a vacant gaze, her features twisted in anguish. A chilling moan escaped her lips, echoing through the empty room. I stumbled back in terror, realizing I had come upon the ghost of a jilted bride, forever trapped in this macabre chamber. But fleeing from the room, I found myself caught in a maze-like labyrinth of hallways. The mansion seemed to shift and twist, confounding my every attempt to escape. The once grand and majestic walls now closed in on me, suffocating my every last breath. Laughter echoed from unseen corners, the atmosphere twisted and filled with pure malice. In a desperate attempt for freedom, I stumbled upon a hidden staircase that descended into the bowels of the mansion. But as I descended, the air grew stale, heavy with the weight of secrets long buried. My heart raced, knowing that I was delving deeper into the unknown. In the depths of the mansion, I discovered a hidden chamber, an altar adorned with decaying flowers and flickering candles. The scent of decay overwhelmed me, as if the very essence of death permeated the room. It was there that I encountered the ghostly presence of a scorned groom, his eyes burning with resentment and anger, and in a chilling whisper he revealed the truth behind the mansion's dark history, a tragic tale of betrayal and revenge that unfolded many years ago. The souls of the jilted bride and her vengeful groom were forever bound to this place, seeking solace in the misery of others. With every fibre of my being screaming for escape at this point, I fled from the mansion, leaving the haunted memories behind. The wedding that was meant to be a celebration of love had become a chilling testament to the power of resentment and the lingering presence of the supernatural. To this day, I am still haunted by the spirits that dwell within those walls. Their tortured souls, a constant reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the happiest of occasions. So beware the hidden secrets that lie within the halls of a wedding venue, For some love stories end not in bliss, but in eternal anguish. Story number 6. The Haunted Cinema. As a young woman with a love for movies, I often found solace and excitement in the darkness of a cinema. But there was one particular cinematic nightmare that unfolded before my very eyes, forever shattering my perception of the silver screen. This is the chilling account of my haunting cinema experience. It was a gloomy evening when I decided to catch a late-night showing of a highly anticipated horror film at a small, run-down theatre. The flickering marquee and the scent of buttered popcorn greeted me as I stepped inside, the atmosphere charged with a strange, unsettling energy. As I sat down in my seat, the theatre filled with eager moviegoers. The lights dimmed and the screen flickered to life, casting an eerie glow on the rows of vacant seats. The film began, and a sense of anticipation filled the air, mingled with a subtle unease that I couldn't quite shake off. Scenes of terror unfolded before my eyes, evoking gasps and nervous laughter from the audience. But as the movie progressed, an unsettling realization crept over me. It became clear that the events on screen were actually mirroring the reality in the theatre. Whispers swept through the audience, voices murmuring about the strange occurrences happening around us. In the corner of my eye, I glimpsed shadowy figures lurking in the aisles, their presence terrifying everybody. It felt as though something sinister had infiltrated the cinema, blurring the boundaries between fiction and reality. Out of nowhere, a thick fog materialized, creeping from beneath the seats and enveloping the theatre in an otherworldly haze. Panic quickly ensued as the audience members, myself included, struggled to find our way out of the maze-like corridors, disoriented and consumed by fear. The familiar exit signs seemed to taunt us, shifting and vanishing as we approached them. But in the midst of the chaos, I stumbled upon an emergency exit, desperate to escape the nightmare that had swallowed the theatre. But as the door swung open, a devastating scene greeted me. The once bustling street outside had transformed into a desolate wasteland, shrouded in perpetual darkness. The sounds of distant screams echoed through the air, signalling a world in chaos. With nowhere else to turn, I reluctantly made my way back into the theatre, hoping to find answers amidst the madness. The screen flickered, revealing twisted images of distorted faces, as if the very fabric of reality had unravelled. It was a manifestation of pure horror, a twisted mockery of the cinematic experience. In a final act of desperation, I closed my eyes, praying for an end to this nightmare. Silence fell upon the theatre, broken only by my trembling breath. When I dared to open my eyes again, I found myself back in the safety of my seat, surrounded by confused and terrified moviegoers. The ordeal had come to an abrupt halt, leaving us questioning our sanity. As I hurriedly left the cinema, I couldn't shake off the feeling that the horrors I had witnessed were much more than fiction. How could it have been a dream if everybody else had experienced the same thing? It was a chilling reminder that sometimes the darkness that lurks within our own minds can manifest in the most unexpected and terrifying ways. To this day, that cinema holds a haunting allure for me, a place where the line between imagination and reality blurs. So the next time you find yourself lost in the shadows, be cautious, for the darkness may not be confined to the silver screen alone. Story number 7. The Fishing Expedition. I still remember the day I embarked on that fishing trip with my friends, hoping for a day of relaxation and adventure. But little did I know that this particular fishing expedition would become a harrowing ordeal, etching fear into the very depths of my being. We set sail on a serene morning, the calm waters reflecting the vivid colours of the sunrise. The boat glided smoothly, and the gentle breeze whispered promises of a fruitful day out on the open sea. Excitement filled the air as we cast our lines, eager to reel in the bounty of the ocean. Hours passed, and the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting its golden glow upon us. But as the day wore on, an unsettling stillness fell upon the water, an eerie silence that seemed to suffocate our surroundings. The sea, once brimming with life, now appeared desolate and void of its usual vitality. As if in response to this atmosphere, the weather took a turn for the worse. Dark clouds gathered overhead, obscuring the light and casting a sombre pallor over the boat. The wind picked up, lashing at our faces, and the once gentle waves suddenly grew tumultuous, crashing against the boat with a vengeful force. Unease settled in the pit of my stomach, but I tried to dismiss it as an irrational fear. Yet, as I gazed into the depths of the water, a sight met my eyes. Shadowy figures were moving beneath the surface, a horrifying spectacle that seemed to defy all logic. Panic welled up within me, my mind racing to comprehend the unfathomable. The boat rocked violently, threatening to capsize under the weight of an unseen force. The sound of scraping metal pierced the air as unseen hands clawed at the boat, seeking entry into our fragile sanctuary. Fear-stricken, we clung to one another, our prayers mingling with the howling wind. Suddenly, a shrill cry tore through the chaos, piercing our ears with its bone-chilling intensity. It seemed to be coming from all directions, a haunting symphony of anguish and torment. We searched frantically for the source, our eyes widening in horror, as we realized that it emanated from the very water we floated upon. In a desperate bid for escape, we scrambled to haul the fishing lines in, but what emerged from the depths was beyond comprehension. Instead of fish, grotesque and malformed creatures writhed on our hooks, their vacant eyes devoid of life. They seemed to mock us, their unnatural forms a chilling testament to the dark forces that lurked beneath the surface. Driven by my primal instinct, we abandoned our fishing gear and navigated the treacherous waves, desperately steering the boat towards the safety of the shore. The storm raged on, its fury matched only by the malevolence that pursued us, its presence palpable in the salty air. Finally, the shoreline emerged from the grey abyss, a beacon of hope in the midst of the tempest. With trembling hands, we guided the boat to safety, collapsing onto the sand, our bodies and spirits battered by the horrors we had witnessed. To this day, the memory of that fateful fishing trip lingers in my nightmares, a chilling reminder that beneath the serene surface of nature, a realm of darkness and terror awaits. So, should you ever find yourself adrift on the open sea, beware the silent depths, for there are terrors that lie in wait, yearning to drag you down into their watery abyss. Story number 8. The Runaway Train. As a young woman who commuted by train on a regular basis, I never anticipated that one particular journey would transform into a chilling nightmare that would forever haunt my memories. It was a misty evening as I boarded the train, the platform illuminated by flickering fluorescent lights. The usual hustle and bustle of commuters was absent, replaced by an eerie stillness that sent shivers down my spine. I took my seat near the window, hoping to distract myself with the passing scenery. As the train pulled away from the station, an unnerving sensation crept over me, a sense of being watched by unseen eyes. The dimly lit carriage seemed to hold secrets, its corners shrouded in darkness. Unsettled, I glanced around, only to catch glimpses of shadowy figures lurking in the periphery of my vision. The rhythmic clatter of the train on the tracks provided little solace, as an oppressive atmosphere soon settled in. The air grew heavy, suffused with an inexplicable tension. I noticed fellow passengers casting nervous glances at one another, their faces etched with unease. As the train rattled on, it began to deviate from its usual route, veering into unfamiliar territory. Panic soon welled up within me, a primal instinct warning of impending danger. I reached for my phone, desperate for a signal, but found myself surrounded by an unnerving silence, an eerie absence of any technological connection to the outside world. Time seemed to lose meaning as the train travelled deeper into a desolate landscape. Stations passed by, deserted and crumbling, devoid of any signs of life. The feeling of isolation intensified, as if we had entered a realm cut off from civilization, abandoned to the clutches of an unknown malevolence. Then, with a screeching halt, the train came to an abrupt stop in the middle of nowhere. The lights flickered ominously, casting elongated shadows that danced along the walls. An indescribable dread settled upon us, as if the train itself had become a vessel for something sinister. as the doors creaked open, revealing a wall of darkness beyond. A primal fear gripped all of the passengers, including myself. Hesitant whispers filled the carriage, mingling with the palpable sense of impending doom. Reluctantly, however, we disembarked, stepping onto the desolate platform, our footsteps echoing in the stillness. In the distance, a flickering light beckoned us forward, its feeble glow guiding us towards an abandoned station building. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, broken only by the distant sound of rustling leaves and an occasional howl of wind. Fear clung to our every step as we ventured into the unknown. Inside the dilapidated building, we discovered a haunting scene. A decrepit waiting room frozen in time. Dust-covered furniture, cracked windows, and faded posters covered the walls, their colours muted and lifeless. The scene of decay permeated the air, as if the very essence of the place had withered away. As we cautiously explored the desolate station, an overwhelming presence pressed upon us, suffocating our breath. Shadows danced along the walls, their movements mirroring our own, but with sinister intent. Whispers echoed through the halls, their words indecipherable, yet dripping with a malevolence that chilled us to the core. A sudden gust of wind extinguished the flickering light, plunging us into total darkness. Panic seized the group as we fumbled blindly for an exit, our hearts pounding in our chests. The once familiar building now became a labyrinth of terror, its corridors shifting and changing, leading us further into the abyss. But just when hope seemed completely lost, a distant voice called out, cutting through the darkness like a lifeline. We followed the sound, our trembling hands brushing against the decaying walls, until we reached a door, bathed in faint moonlight. As we stepped outside, we felt ourselves back on the train platform, and a wave of relief washed over me. The train, once dormant, now hummed with life, ready to continue its journey. With wary glances exchanged between the passengers, we reboarded the train, praying for a return to normalcy. The train resumed its familiar route, the scenery outside gradually shifting from desolation to signs of civilization. Stations came alive with bustling crowds, and a sense of normality began to settle in. But the scars of that nightmarish journey remained etched in our souls, a reminder that even in the most ordinary of places, darkness and horror can always lurk. To this day, the memory of that haunting train ride stays with me in my dreams, serving as a constant reminder that safety and comfort can be stripped away in an instant, leaving only the chilling embrace of the unknown. So, the next time you find yourself aboard a train, please be vigilant, for you never know what sinister secrets lie hidden in the shadows of the tracks. Story number 9. The Midnight Jog. As a person who enjoys staying fit and exploring the outdoors, jogging had become a routine part of my daily life. But there was one fateful day when my usual exercise regimen turned into an encounter that forever changed my perception of running. This is the bone-chilling account of my horrifying jogging experience. It was a crisp evening as I set out on my usual jogging route, the sun beginning its descent beyond the horizon. The familiar path stretched before me, lined with tall trees and enveloped in a serene silence. As I fell into a steady rhythm, the comforting solitude of nature surrounded me. However, as I ventured deeper into the woods, an unsettling sensation crept over me. The usual chorus of birdsong had ceased, replaced by an eerie stillness that made my skin crawl. Shadows danced among the trees, whispering secrets I couldn't comprehend. But ignoring the unease gnawing at the pit of my stomach, I pressed on, determined to complete my run. With each step, the woods seemed to close in around me, the once familiar trail, now unfamiliar and foreboding. My heart raced, but not from the exertion alone. The air grew thick with a suffocating tension, as if an invisible presence lurked just beyond my sight, watching my every move. A cold gust of wind cut through the trees, carrying a whispered voice that sent shivers down my spine. I stopped in my tracks, straining to make sense of the haunting words. They seemed to emanate from all directions, a chorus of disembodied whispers that echoed in the depths of the forest. Fear seized me, and I turned to retrace my steps, only to find the path had vanished. The once clearly defined trail had dissolved into an impenetrable thicket of gnarled branches and dense undergrowth. Panic quickly set in, as I realized I had become trapped in a sinister maze. As I stumbled through the woods, the darkness deepened, enveloping me in a shroud of uncertainty. Strange figures darted between the trees, their movements barely perceptible, yet unmistakably human-like. My breath hitched, and my heart threatened to burst from my chest as I realized I was not alone. Every direction I turned, the path seemed to shift and twist, leading me further into the heart of this nightmarish realm. Time became distorted, minutes stretching into agonizing hours, blurring the line between reality and a waking nightmare. Desperation clawed at my sanity, and the forest seemed to mock my futile attempts to escape. But then, through the dense foliage, I caught sight of a dilapidated cabin nestled in a clearing. A glimmer of hope ignited within me as I stumbled toward it, praying for sanctuary from the terrors that pursued me. But as I reached the cabin's decaying doorstep, a presence made itself known. The door creaked open, revealing a darkness so profound it seemed to devour all light. Hesitant, I stepped inside, the stench of decay filling my nostrils. Shadows danced on the walls, their contorted shapes mocking my fear. Whispers brushed against my ears, words drenched in horror. In a desperate bid for my escape, I turned to flee, only to find the cabin's walls were closing in on me. The room seemed to shrink, constricting my movements and smothering my breath. Fear overwhelmed me, squeezing my throat with an icy grip. But just as I thought all hope was lost, a burst of sunlight pierced through a crack in the cabin's wall. Instinctively, I lunged towards it, breaking free from the claustrophobic prison that had ensnared me. Gasping for air, I emerged from the cabin, blinking against the blinding light of day. Relief washed over me as I found myself back on the familiar jogging trail. The oppressive atmosphere of the forest had dissipated, replaced by the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves. I stumbled my way back home, my legs trembling with exhaustion, and my mind haunted by the horrors I had endured. To this day, the memory of that terrifying jog through the cursed woods lingers in my mind, a stark reminder that even the most peaceful places can hold unspeakable darkness. Story number 10. The Trip to the Bank. I never expected that a routine visit to the local bank would turn into a real-life nightmare that would forever haunt my mind. This is the account of my disturbing experience. The moment that I stepped into the bank, an unexplained unease settled in the pit of my stomach. The usual sounds of customers seemed muted, as if swallowed by an oppressive silence. The air felt heavy, and a peculiar scent, a mixture of stale air and mildew, lingered in every corner. As I approached the teller, a shiver ran down my spine, as if somebody was watching my every move. The bank teller's smile, though seemingly friendly, seemed somewhat forced, her eyes hollow and distant. A sense of dread crept over me, but I dismissed it as mere paranoia, attributing it to my overactive imagination. As I waited for my transaction to be completed, a strange sound reached my ears, a low, disembodied whisper, barely audible, yet undeniably present. I glanced around, searching for the source, but the other customers appeared oblivious to the eerie phenomenon. Doubt and anxiety gnawed at me, but I decided to push through, eager to conclude my business and leave. But as I turned to exit the bank, the once familiar doors refused to budge. Panic seized me as I tugged at the handles, my heart pounding. The bank had transformed into a labyrinth, trapping me within its walls. Confusion mingled with fear as I realized something was horribly wrong. The interior of the bank had shifted, its layout distorted beyond recognition. Walls stretched and contorted, corridors twisted and led me in circles. Every step I took only deepened my entrapment, the bank becoming an inescapable nightmare. To my horror, the customers and bank employees were no longer who they appeared to be. Their expressions were vacant, their movements jerky and unnatural. Their eyes, once filled with life, were now empty voids, devoid of any humanity. They shuffled aimlessly through the distorted halls, their whispers growing louder and more deranged. Desperation consumed me as I ran, trying to find an exit, but the corridors only seemed to multiply. leading me deeper into the labyrinth. The walls pulsated with a sickening energy, as if the very essence of the bank had become corrupted. Amidst the chaos, I stumbled upon a door that seemed different from the rest. It exuded a malevolent aura, emanating an intense chill. But with nowhere else to go, I decided to push it open, and as soon as I did, a wave of darkness engulfed me. The room was devoid of light, save for a faint glow of flickering fluorescent bulbs. In the heart of the room stood a figure, a shadowy presence that seemed to materialize from the very depths of my nightmares. Its features were indistinct, yet I could sense its malevolence. Fear immobilized me as it drew closer, its whispers growing louder, words dripping with malice. But just as the figure reached out to touch me, the bank's alarm blared, jolting me from the surreal nightmare. I found myself back in the familiar bank. The customers and employees returned to their normal state. Confused and shaken, I hurriedly made my exit, vowing never to return to that place again. To this day, the memory of that haunting experience lingers. So the next time you step into a bank, please be careful, for you never know what may lurk beneath its seemingly mundane facade. For more disturbing bedtime stories, check out the video on screen now.